Noticeably, the story told in the Gospel of Matthew is different from the very same story told in the Gospel of John. In Matthew, Jesus leaves Nazareth and relocates to Capernaum, and it is there that he takes the initiative to seek out and call his first disciples. The names are still the same and include Andrew and Peter, John, and also James, both sons of Zebedee. In fact, John and James were in business with their father. They were all fishermen, making their living catching fish in the Sea of Galilee. They were busy preparing their nets when Jesus called to them and said, "Come and follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people." The proper answer to that summons was probably, "Go away, Jesus, we are busy right now." Elsewhere, we also find the story of empty nets, so maybe business was a little slow right then, and they thought that Jesus needed to hire them for something else, to go and find people perhaps for some big project. If that was the case, then they were partly right. Or maybe, just maybe, they were ready to give up fishing altogether, but I doubt that. From time to time, they would still be out on the lake and catch more than a few fish with his help. How this moment fits into this story depends on how you weave together the various narratives in the Gospels. Clearly, somehow, they became more than just fishermen and did indeed become fishers of men. Matthew linked it to the words of Isaiah, "The people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned." So, one other way to look at this moment is that Jesus flipped a switch in them and brought alive in them something that wasn't there before, a desire and willingness to change their lives in order to help other people. When viewed that way, their response was both courageous and foolhardy at the same time. That boat was their livelihood, and at least on a good day it paid the bills. This was how they fed their families. So to just leave all that meant economic hardship and consequences for all of them. This was a family business too, so it meant risking the ire of their father and other members of the family for being foolhardy. And truth be told, they knew how to catch fish. They did not know how to be disciples. As the old saying goes, it's a life, not much of one, but it's a life, which kind of hits on the nature of life itself. It was Seneca, that old Greek Stoic, who once said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. When it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last, by death's final constraint, to realize that it has passed away before we knew it was passing." Life is long, if you know how to use it. Jan Martel, in his book The Life of Pi, observed, "Life in a lifeboat isn't much of a life. You get happiness where you can. You reach a point where you're at the bottom, yet you have your arms crossed and a smile on your face, and you feel like you're the luckiest person on earth. Why? Because at your feet you have a tiny dead fish." Maybe it really was the alternative to that which made these fishermen become fishers of men. Jesus offered them a different life, one filled with more than dead fish at their feet. And to obtain this new life, all they had to do was get out of that boat. Easier said than done. Getting out of your boat, a place where you may feel competent and secure, is incredibly risky. It requires losing your identity altogether. We have to leave behind the safe and the predictable, the way we have always done things, in order to move now toward purpose, asking ourselves, why are we even alive, if not for some purpose? That is the kind of question that changes us and messes up our comfortable life and throws us into a whirlwind of change. Why would we do that? Maybe because to not do so risks settling for life in a lifeboat with a dead fish, where there is no real purpose to life at all. Figuratively speaking, the Bible contains a lot of stories about people who got out of the boat, so to speak. Abraham listened to the voice of God and left a pretty comfortable life in Ur for a future that he knew he might never even live long enough to see. Moses went from living in a palace to being a shepherd, and then gave that up too to go back and confront an evil man and give him the message from God to let my people go. Ruth left home and security out of friendship to walk into an unknown future with Naomi. Totally nuts, by the way, but also totally admirable. In church history, there are examples too, like Francis of Assisi, who gave up a comfortable life of privilege to embrace poverty and to be of service to others. These were all ways and means of getting out of the boat to live a life with purpose. We might also remember Rosa Parks, who just said no as an act of resistance to challenge an injustice that she saw happening every day. We might remember Mother Teresa, too, who could have lived a secure and quiet life within the walls of their convent, but chose to serve the dying and the abandoned in the streets of Calcutta instead. Each in their own way, when called to do so, stepped out of their boat, leaving behind what was familiar and secure and predictable in order to embrace a riskier life of purpose. Sometimes life puts us right where we need to be, but there are other times when we just get stuck, choosing what is safe and familiar over a riskier life that has purpose, afraid to move toward that for fear of what we might lose. And when that happens, what we lose is life itself. Familiarity seems safer, even though the boat is uncomfortable. Staying where we are maintains our identity. In fact, we risk disappointing others if we try to get out of that boat. For all these reasons, it's better not to do so, not to rock the boat, so to speak. There is truly only one reason that we should do so. Jesus calls us, saying, "Come and follow me." He might as well have told them that day, "Get out of the boat. There is a world out there, and your purpose is going to be fulfilled out there, not by staying here and fixing nets." There is nothing wrong with fishing. Perhaps you enjoy doing so, unless your purpose is going to be found somewhere else. Listen then for the call and be brave. I guess that is what they mean by finding your true calling. To do that, you have to get out of the boat and leave the familiar and the comfortable life behind. Matthew uses this story to show that, and to show how the kingdom ends up calling millions of people into new life. His kingdom starts among ordinary people who are asked to do extraordinary things that they could never have done without God's help. What happens next is always the same story every time. Something must be left behind to answer the call of God. But then, life takes on new meaning too. How then does this apply to you and me? You tell me. You are the one in the boat. This is personal. Getting out of the boat that you are in will not always be world-changing, but it will change you. In what small ways could you get out of your comfort zone and dare to do what God is asking you to do? Is it something big? Something small? It really doesn't matter which. If God is asking you to do something different, are you ready to do so? To start something new, to comfort a friend, to dare to say yes, or maybe no, just in order to leave one way of life behind and discover your true life and true purpose. Are you ready to do that if he asks you? Could you use your life to make a difference? You see, true discipleship is not something you can just tack on to life. It is a reorientation of life itself, something which takes us God knows where. And as others have said, while the kingdom is free, it is not cheap. Doing what God asks of you might just cost you your boat or even your life. We know, for instance, that Jesus himself only lived to the ripe old age of 33. But then we also know that his life was not wasted. It's like old Seneca said, life is long, if you know how to use it. But to use it, you have to get out of the boat. Be safe. No, be daring, and let God bless you. Amen.